So if you look at how the vast majority of people made their wealth, the vast majority, they made their wealth doing one thing very well, and then they have enough resources that they can start building out other verticals. And so we only see the ultra success once it's already built through one channel, and then it appears like an ecosystem. But almost no businesses begin as one.
So they begin with multiple things?
No, they begin with one thing and they go all in on that thing for an extended period of time.
Got it.
And they allow that one thing to just, they want to take it to the natural extreme. I'll give you a story to illustrate the point. So a friend of mine, acquaintance from high school, called me up.
He's not friends with him no more.
Yeah. No, it wouldn't be fair to him. It wouldn't be fair to my friends to call him a friend. An acquaintance of mine from high school saw me doing some stuff, and he still had my cell phone number and hit me up from like however long ago. Anyways, and he had a contracting roofing business. And so I said, how's business? And he's like, it's great. And he's describing how they do roofs. And I was like, oh, that's amazing, dude. And he was like, and he paused. He was like, we also do a little general contracting work. And I was like, okay. He's probably doing $5 or $6 million a year. And I was like, okay, got it. So you do roofs and you do some general contracting. He was like, yeah, and we do some build and flips. And I was like, okay. He's like, I don't leave money on the table. And so I use this almost like everyone on my team knows this joke. I'm like, I wouldn't want to leave money on the table because you leave small money on the table by continuing to go all in on the one thing. And that's how you make the most money. And so if you look at the biggest roofing company in the United States, it's a $1 billion plus company. So why does this person think that he needs to have 3 businesses in order to have a larger business? It doesn't. It's just typically they're limited in some way by their ability to get customers. And so the only thing they can think of is sell them more stuff. But in so doing, create multiple businesses that are too operationally complex to manage. And so you never really overexpand, you just under talent. So you don't have enough good people who can do the stuff. And usually you can't get enough good people because the core business doesn't make enough money to attract the good people. And so then you get into this no man's land where you have 3, we call them mutant businesses, where it's like, well, this one kind of feeds this one and this one kind of feeds this one. And it only works in the entrepreneur's head, but never in reality. And so I define commitment as the elimination of alternatives. And so focus, if you think about it, I think focus and commitment are very similar, because if you think about the absolute most focused person in the world, they wouldn't sleep, they wouldn't eat, they would only do one thing. And anything that is not that one thing is less focused than absolute focus. And so the most focused entrepreneurs say no to things that they desperately want to do and know they could crush. But they say no to that because they realize that saying no is actually saying yes again to the thing that they believed and they started on their mission to do. And so I would say it is probably one of 5 or 6 big consistent errors that entrepreneurs will make. And it's very difficult to get out of when you have multiple half children. They're not to adolescents yet. They're not adults yet. They're just toddlers. And then you just don't have enough time and resources to feed them all, and you don't have the money for a nanny. And so, but like they don't actually grow up though. and then to where the analogy ends, obviously, is that sometimes you have to let it go. And to use a different analogy that would be more palatable, you have to prune the tree in order to keep it growing. And so a lot of times you have to redirect. Yeah, you have to redirect the resources towards the thing that you get the highest returns on.
So it's when it lucratively, not use that word, right? When you produced enough money for you to float another idea is when you're able to do that?
You can always do it. The question is whether the returns are higher than doing more on the same one that you're already have leverage in. And so typically when you have this cash that's coming from this thing that's working, that cash would probably be best suited going back into that thing that's working, making it even more profitable. It's like you want to feed the winner, starve the losers. You don't want to steal from the winner and then feed the loser.
Yeah.
Now we don't know it's a loser yet, but it's very rare, not impossible, but very rare that someone will gain more from splitting their attention. And so a different way of thinking about this is, imagine you did 3 years in one business and then you had the idea of another business. We usually will say, okay, well, man, I could probably in the first year of that business do half of what I'm doing in this business. And probably by the second year, I could do as much or more than I'm currently doing. And you're like, oh, that's a better business than the one I'm in. But we can't compare it like that because you're already in year 3 of your current one.
Yeah.
Which means that you'd actually have to compare it to year 5 of your current one with all that attention and resources directed back at that one. And most times year 5 will almost always be year 1 or year 2 of any new business. And so this is why even if you are in an inferior vehicle, I think there's a saying in the stock market, which is time in the market beats timing the market.
Time in the market beats
timing the market.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to put your time in the lifting world, which I come from, is like we call it time under the bar. It's like you just have to put enough time under the bar in.
And this is purely like business, right? It's not even like you wouldn't put this in the category of I have a successful business and then this is my passion. And I do it because I love it.
I think you can do something because you love it. I think that's fine. It's just a question of like, you have limited resources. Again, I speak in purely practical terms.
Yeah, business.
When you divert resources, you divert nutrients, sunlight, water to another plant, the main plant will grow less than if you put all of that on the main one. That's also fine. It's just understand the trade that you're making is that this will not grow as fast and you might be less profitable overall and probably more stressed.
What was the first time you've ever done that for yourself?
I've done that so many times, which is why I can describe it in such vivid clarity.
So do you still do that now? Is there
Yes, it's still incredibly difficult. I mean, one of the recurring themes in my content I call the woman in the red dress. And it's because it's probably one of my favorite scenes in The Matrix, which is Neo is going through the training program. He's walking behind Morpheus, and Morpheus is talking about something. There are all these people. All of a sudden, then the woman in the red dress walks by, and Morpheus says, "Were you listening to me? Or were you looking at the woman in the red dress?" And he says, "Look again." He looks back, and it's an agent pointing a gun at his head. And to me, the woman in the red dress is always the distraction, the thing that looks appealing, right? The thing that will take your eye off the ball. And so when I met Layla, for example, I was a successful entrepreneur. I'll use quotes. I thought I was successful. I think I had 4 or 5 gyms at the time when we met.
some guy who owns one is like,
and I had a dental agency that I had a partner with. I had a chiropractor agency that I had a partner with. I had a gym launch business where I'd fly around and launch gyms, not where my gyms were. And I had all of that, and I was the CEO of all of it. So I'd be like, I own companies. And obviously when we started dating, she had this brilliant idea where she said, hey, this launch business, you take all the cash from this and you feed all these other ones. What if you just spent all your time on the launch business because you're spending like 20% of your time on it and it's making like all the money? And the difficulty between there and where I ultimately ended up was like 3 hard conversations that I had to have that I was dreading. And so when I had to really write down, will these 3 conversations be the things that limit me from my goal? It became much more practical of like, okay, I'm going to get through these things. I will feel like I'm going to die, but I won't. And I will get through it. And then I did. I did all 3 in the same day because I was just like, I had to like rip it off like a Band-Aid.
how did I feel?
Freeing.
Did it feel way less worse than you thought it was?
The anticipation is always worse. And then after the first one's done, you're like, I want to call everyone. Like, like tell your
Hello,
you're like,
Mom?
Yeah.
Is Dad home?
Yeah. I got some things I got to share. Right?
I got to talk to him. Put on speaker.
Yeah. And so yeah, I think it's a great momentum builder. It's like just have one hard conversation. You realize that you don't die and you'll get through it. But you have there's been no truer lesson in my life than the return on focus. I think David Senra from the Founder podcast, I don't know if you've heard of it. He said if he consolidated every single podcast he's done with all the billionaires he's been on into one word, it was focus.